And this is where I think a lot of people go wrong, is like they don't think long term. So successful people are very good at having long time horizons, where unsuccessful people have very high expectations for short time horizons. So when it doesn't happen, they give up. Like who's going to be more successful? The person who says, I'm going to create a 6-figure business in 5 years time, to the person who says, I want to create 6 figures in 6 months. You know what I mean? That like the person who's got the longer time horizon is going to enjoy the process a lot more. They're going to make better long-term decisions in the moment, and they're not going to feel as pressured and not burn out as much as well. So I think that like, having that long time horizon for what you want to achieve is imperative for great success, because then you're focused all your energy on that one long-term goal, rather than like pivoting and trying to find the quickest route to success.
Welcome everyone. This is High Performance Management Podcast, episode 3 with Daniel from Dynamis Protocol. Thanks for coming on, mate. Now, Daniel here, he's extensive experience in the fitness industry, went from in-person personal training and transitioned to the online sector. And within a 6-month period, brought his business into the 6-figure mark, which is amazing for such a young guy like yourself, mate. So well done. You've moved on to now impacting over 500 people through your services, which again, massive achievement for such a, early entrepreneur. I'm sure you got massive things ahead of you. And yeah, I'm looking forward to our chat today, mate. We've already had a few amazing chats. So I can only imagine what this one's going to be, because we're going to dive a bit deeper. But thanks for coming on, mate. How's everything been?
Oh, my pleasure, mate. I really appreciate you having me on board. I love sharing some wisdom. I mean, like the whole thing that got me into what I do is I wanted to be the guy which I wish I had growing up. So yeah, my pleasure. No, everything's going well. Just cold as shit.
So
cold.
All right. So cold. Not used to. Everyone's very like, oh, you bloody Australians. But now, like 9 degrees last night. It was a bit chilly.
Yeah. I know. You're in summer. You always want what you don't have. Hey, in summer you can't wait for the cold, and then in winter you can't wait.
That's it. Grass is always greener.
Yeah, 100%.
Except it's not. No, awesome, mate. Well, look, I love starting with how people came up with their name, and I know we've already talked about a little bit. I think it's super important just because it kind of links with your identity yourself. So, Dynamis, what does that mean? How did you come up with it?
So, it's a funny story. Like I was stuck on thinking of a business name. When I first started the PT business, and then I somehow found like we're trying to, because the whole reason that I got into it was because I wanted to reach my full potential in life and become a powerful version of myself. And so I was kind of Googling those kinds of like names and like acronyms, all that kind of stuff, right? And this word dynamis came up, and it's actually a Greek word meaning like powerful or potentiality. And I was like, that's sick. And it is a little bit of a harder name, so it's probably not the best brand move, I guess you could say. But I thought if I just keep pushing it, eventually it'll get out there. And I really stand for I really connect with what it stands for. And that's what I've created with the business that I've got now. So we're not just like a PT platform where it's like, here's your program, here's your calories, good luck. We actually want to enable people to reach their full potential in life. Okay. And so you achieving your fitness goals, feeling the confidence, and feeling that increase in self-esteem once you've achieved your goals is going to enable you to reach your potential, because there's more to life than just obviously looking good, but that stems and flows into all areas of your life, obviously. And that's what's going to enable you to reach your full potential. And that's what I'm really passionate about, helping people. So with our coaching platform or process that we take people through, it's more self-development rather than just a program and stuff. Because what I found is, if you just do programs and your meal plans, all that kind of stuff, then you're not making a long-lasting change. It's just a temporary fix, because they're just simply tools. And so we really wanted to make it an investment with people so they can actually change the rest of their life. And so we actually coach them to creating a different version of that person, which is their full potential. Because otherwise, if you don't actually change who you are as a person, then you're never going to be able to obviously maintain that result. So that's what I really focused on and developed. And obviously, we're seeing really good results with that. And I really enjoy the process that we take people through. So yeah, that's basically a roundabout way of what my business is, and also why we came to that conclusion of that name.
No, that's awesome. I think the Greeks, they had something going on. They're the earliest form of human philosophy, and why we do certain things. They're always, I know, profound things. So it's cool how everything's kind of connected back then. And
100%.
yeah, you're so right. Like like what you're saying about just doing meal plans or something like that, they're sometimes quick fixes, but it is, you're right, like a lifestyle change. You got to completely change who you are to get the new results that you want, because you are just who you are now is because of all the things you've done in the past. So yeah, that's awesome, man. I love that. And you seem quite versed in self-development and things like that. What kind of was your introduction to that? And I know this seems to be a key thing across the board with high performers, is you've always wanted to be the best version of yourself. Have you always had that? And actually, I'll reframe the question. That will be the question. Have you always had that like drive, that hunger to want to be better? And if so, when did you like start noticing that? Was it like through school? Like, yeah.
Yeah, so it's a very interesting question. Haven't really thought of that. I would say, don't know if I'm completely right by saying this, but I would say what I noticed in school was I was a little bit different to like, I was a little bit of a, an outlier, I guess you could say, in the school thing. I didn't really like, how you got your friendship groups, the cool kids, all that kind of stuff. I wasn't classified myself as one of the cool kids, but I would see what they were doing, what they valued. I didn't really see the benefit in doing that. And so I would kind of keep to myself a little bit. And throughout school, I was watching what everyone was doing. I was like, this can't be it with life, right? And I was seeing the teachers, I was like, man, how could they just want just go to work every day? And then like I saw it a little bit differently, I think. And that's why I think really stemmed the first time I really noticed I wanted to be like, a really high performer, really achieving something great. Was I was like, this can't be it. And so that really got me into my first kind of wanting to improve who I was and things like that. Because also I wasn't the fittest or the best looking guy. I was pretty insecure when I was a kid. I got bullied a lot as well. So that's probably what stemmed to it as well. I wanted to better myself, so I didn't face that anymore. And so that's probably so. Thanks for getting bullied as a kid. That's brought me to where I am today, I guess you could say. But yeah, when I was in year 11 and 12, that's when I started taking a bit more serious. When I was starting to think about my future, what I wanted to be. Everyone was saying like, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" And I had no clue. I had no clue what the heck, and I felt bad because everyone was like, yeah, I want to do this, go to uni after school and all this kind of stuff. And teachers were pushing me and I was just like, I've got no clue. And I'm very thankful that my parents were pretty understanding. Like, just take a gap year. Like, you don't have to go into something straight away. And so throughout that gap year, I was just doing what I enjoyed. I was just working, I think I was working 2 jobs and I was, you just feel that real guilt and the pressure, that feeling that you're getting left behind, because seeing all your mates going FIFO and all this kind of stuff, and you just like, you feel like you're getting left behind.
Yeah, making money.
Yeah, exactly. They're starting to make some money. You're still, and you've got no direction of what you want to do. You feel really like you're running behind or you're late, and that's what that was a lot of pressure I put on myself, which wasn't good. Because now I look back, I'm like, man, you've got so much time, and it's better to make the right decision. And now a lot of those guys, which I was looking at, I was comparing myself to, are now still stuck not knowing what they want to do. So yeah, but in the moment you feel like that 100%. I feel like there's a lot of younger guys and girls going through the same issue. But once I left school, I basically took that gap year. I just worked and I was enjoying the gym. I'm into my fishing and things like that. So I was just doing that. And then at the end of the year, I still had no idea what I wanted to do, but all I knew is I kind of just wanted to work for myself. And to answer your question, basically, yeah, I just knew that there had to be more to life than just going to work, coming home, and then, you know what I mean? That had to be more than that. And that's what really got me into reading as well. A lot more books. And one of the first books I read was the 50th Law, or something like that. I think it's by Robert Greene. It's 50 Cent's like autobiography kind of thing that Robert Greene wrote. And that really shifted my perception on like what was actually achievable. And that's what really hyped me up, really big in the self-development space, I would say.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, you mentioned 50th Law, man. I read his the actual 50 Cent one as well. I haven't read that one yet, but yeah, man, he just has a way, especially listen to the audiobook, you just got 50 Cent like yelling at you. It's, I got shot 9 times. Like it's yeah, I can imagine what that one would be like. So yeah, that was a big perception change for you, was it? Like that reading that book.
100%.
What did you like looking back? I know you probably didn't think of this at the time, but looking back, what were you doing? And then what were you starting to change after like getting these new insights about, what actually was possible? Like what was possible? What did you find out?
Well, obviously, I didn't know all I knew when I left school was I just wanted to work for myself and I want to make money online. I had no clue what the heck that looked like. Like back then, I don't even know why people sent emails. To me, I was like, why would people even do that? Why not just text or something? You know what I mean? I had no
Yeah,
clue.
send a messenger.
And yeah, why would people do that? Like I had no idea how people made money online or what the heck sales or anything was back then. All I knew that's kind of what I wanted. I wanted to be like that kind of person. And I think reading these kinds of books made me realize and really opened my eyes that you can really just do whatever the heck you want. Because 50 Cent didn't care. He just did whatever he wanted to do. And that I think was a massive shift for me. It was like you just like there's rules, but a lot of, like you don't have to follow the norm. You can do whatever the heck you want to do. And as long as you doing like the morally right thing, then you can do whatever the heck you want. You can make money doing anything. And the more I get into them, like I've read all heaps of books now, and and obviously done a lot of courses and talked to a lot of people. The more I'm just like, wow, you can really do anything. And when people are stuck, like if one piece of advice I would say to my younger self or to anyone who's around 17 or 18 that doesn't know what the heck they want to do, is like you can honestly, especially in this day and age of technology, you can honestly make money doing anything, as long as you can create some sort of emotion with the buyer, or fulfill some sort of result that they want, make them feel a certain way, and you can make money doing anything. And you can be very impactful doing that as well. So that was the biggest eye opener for me, is because like my dad wasn't a businessman or anything like that. My parents were just pretty much like, my dad worked, my mom worked a little bit as well, but she mainly stayed at home, but nothing massive, you know what I mean? And like I wasn't the most well off. It was just, just like a mediocre kind of family, I guess you could say. And that's, I think, what got me thinking like there's got to be more. And so that's what I think also drove me a little bit as well.
Yeah, no, I really love that. Yeah, whatever you can do whatever the fuck you want, and it's that is a weird concept because, like, yeah, you're right. It is just rules and constructs that you're told to live within. Like you're saying, you're going to like in high school, they want you to go through to uni and things like that. It's kind of like a dichotomy. It's like in sales, right? You give them like all right, you can go for this one or this one. Which one do you want? But really, there's a whole other sort of options you can go down. Yeah, that's really cool. I love that, and I found the same doing a bunch of courses. Like the more you learn, the more options you have access to. And I think that's like for me anyway, like pursuing success is developing new pathways to go down. Because it's like a lot of people like, oh, I don't know what to do. Just do something. Because if you're doing nothing, then you're in the same spot. Like you get this probably in your fitness clients, like they're like, oh, I can't go to the gym that many times. It's like, well, just walk, like do something, like, stand longer. Like it's at least moving in a direction. Yeah. No, that's really
100%.
cool.
The other thing, yeah, because like the other thing that like they'll always got questions like, what do you want to do when you're old? I think that's the worst question you can ask anyone, because especially in this day and age, like your job will change every couple of years. And so what I've found a better question to ask yourself is like, where do you want to be in 10 years? Like, what do you want? What does your life want to look like when you're 30? And so like, how many houses do you want? What does your family life look like? What does your income look like? And so then you've got some sort of lifestyle which you can then work towards. So like, for example, when I was 18, I had no idea how to work from a laptop or work for myself. And now I know everything about making money online and everything like that. But back then I had no idea. But I had a goal, and then I just basically, okay, now I need to figure out how to get there. But if I didn't have that goal and I was trying to be someone I would never got here. But I had an outcome goal which I was working towards.
Yeah, and you, like in the whole personal development space as well, like that's exactly it. Like how many people don't even like have a goal? Like they just exist. They just float around, and then they wonder why they're not happy. And we talked about this the other day, but like I think that's what depression is. Like if you've got a concept of what you expect life to be like, but you're not living that, and you've got this incongruency. So not only is it your brain's thinking about it and you're not doing it, it's like you're in your own jail. And yeah, that's like what happens if you don't have a goal. Like I can't remember who said it the other day. I think it was Peyton Manning, who's saying that like he never did any like goal setting. He was never taught, but he came to the realization that like he would go shopping, and if he went to the shops with a list of 8 items, he'd be in and out within 15 minutes. But if we went into the shop with nothing, he would just float around. He'd be like, why am I looking at 2 different types of cereals right now? He's got all these things, and he'd take like 30-40 minutes. And he said that's what he used to like build his foundation of goal setting, because you give yourself an aim, a target, and you can move towards it. That's so cool, man. I love that.
A good analogy I give to clients when they first come to me, because obviously they're lacking motivation is huge. Okay. But people aren't lacking motivation, they're lacking direction. And the way I explain it is like you get dropped off into the jungle, you have no map, you're gonna feel hopeless, you're gonna feel not motivated to do anything because you don't know where the heck to go, right? You might walk around for a while, but eventually you're probably just gonna give up and just sit there because you have no idea, right? Because you're just so lost. But if you get dropped in the jungle with a GPS and a map and you know exactly where your location is, you're gonna walk there and you're gonna feel good about going there because you know where you're going. And so getting a clear direction on what you want to achieve. And people don't do this these days. This is something that someone told me, which was very profound, is that really changed my mindset on everything, is that people just don't think these days. No one thinks because everything's so instant. Like if you want to, like, you don't know something's, Google it, boom, there it is. You're feeling down, you open up Instagram, TikTok, boom, dopamine hit. Everything's so instant where it takes, I think takes like around 15 minutes for your creativity to actually kick in. And so I have this process, which I just call it thinking time. It's in a book that I read. I can't remember the guy's name now. But it's very, very important with business. So basically you set like an hour where you have no distractions, just a pen and paper, and you just think. Okay. And what I realized as well, the higher level you get in business as well, is you get paid for thinking, not doing. So, look at Steve Jobs, all these really high level people, is they just think. And because it's the decisions that you make and what you come up with, that's what creates different outcome, rather than, because you can only do so much. And so, of course, action is very important, especially when you first start out, but being actually having the time to think about where you want to get to in life and get some direction before taking action is huge. And that's what people just don't do, because they just think for a couple of minutes, I can't think of it, and just give up. And so when I learned that and just spent time thinking, you'd be surprised what you can come up with.
Yeah, no, I love that. I live by that. The quality of your life is determined by the quality of the questions you ask. Like, I think people don't think about this, but your brain is a fucking supercomputer. Like, you ask it any question, like, is this God answering? Like, where are these thoughts from? Like, why am I so bad at doing this task? You'll get an answer. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, well, how can I most effectively traverse this obstacle to get the outcome I want? Your brain will give you the answer. Like, it's so crazy. And that's like, thanks for bringing it up, because like, I think that's a big takeaway. Don't be like a zombie and like float through life, but actually like think about what questions you're asking yourself. That's cool. I love 100%.
That, so like, and that's what I really work with my clients as well. So they had a week where they didn't, you can't just keep trying harder. Like clients will, they didn't train or they didn't track that week. And they say, oh, I'll just try harder next week. It's like, no, let's try attack it with a different mindset or different thinking or different strategy. Otherwise you're just addressing the same problem with the same strategy, and it's going to create the same outcome. And so you're looking, and that's what I really learned with myself, was when I'm super, like if I get super stressed or stuck with business, I'll ask myself questions. And it's amazing what you can come up with. You're right. And you feel better for it because you're getting your thoughts out of your head on paper. You can actually look at it more logically. And like, what is stressing me out? This, and this. Okay, what can I do about that? This, and this. Why is it stressing me out? This, and this. And then you can actually talk yourself kind of through it. And that makes it, I think that's actually helped me heaps over the years as well. And going back, I forgot to say as well, going back to what you said, when you're first starting out, you're not sure what you should be doing. 100% the best thing I can suggest to people is self-development. Getting your health and fitness in check, doing what you enjoy, learning more about your mindset, psychology, sales, business, all these kinds of things, which is self-development aspects. And then once you figure out what your passion is, then you've got the skill sets to go attack it, rather than just not doing anything. Because that's what I found I was doing. I was just upskilling, reading more about business and kind of what I was like, self-development aspects. And so then once I kind of found out my niche, then I was ready for it. So yeah, that's some really powerful stuff. So yeah, thinking is definitely overrated. and not really thought about.
Especially now when the world we live in is like buy our things. They don't want you to think. They want to use, like we were talking, like marketing. Human mind has stayed the same for hundreds of thousands of years. So the psychology is the same. Marketing works on everyone. So it's like they don't want you to think. And that's how you get sucked into it, because you're not asking these questions. You're not like, oh, what do I want to do? You're just like, oh, okay, these are the options that have been presented to me through some source that apparently I trust because it's got like 20,000 followers, right? Like,
Yeah, for sure.
No, that's cool. And yeah, sorry, go. Yep.
I was going to say, because that's the whole thing with buying. People buy with emotion and justifiable logic, right? So, like, you know, a 19-year-old will buy a Gucci belt that's $400, and they'll buy it with emotion, thinking it's going to increase their status. You know, it's going to make them feel good. People are going to respect them more because they got a Gucci belt. They justify buying that with logic. Oh, it's only one paycheck. I can afford that. I don't buy anything this week or spend any money this week and spend my whole paycheck on it. I can afford it. So they buy with emotion, justify with logic, and that's the whole thing. That's how, like, people think they're in control when in reality a lot of people aren't.
Yeah. You're right. Like that will just start doing self-development, right? You'll start understanding these simple concepts. That's cool, man. I think we'll go into, you know, like that transition phase, because like I think going from working a job to, you know, starting a business, taking the courage to do that leap, then to scale it, and then to decide when you leave. Because I know for a while you were still PTing in person, and then I remember the day actually when you announced it, you're like, oh, this is my final day working as a PT. I was like, wow, that's awesome, man. Like, good job. Like, maybe walk us through that process, because that would have required a new version of you as well, right? Like you finally you got this understanding of what you could do and what was possible through your self-development books and maybe some courses. And then it's like, okay, time to put this knowledge into action. I want to actually plan this goal. You start taking these steps, but obviously it's not as easy as just following the plan, right? So yeah, maybe walk us through that transition phase between taking your goal and actualizing it into reality.
Cool. So, yeah, that was a big. Looking back now, I think I was a little bit ignorant to the risk involved as well, because that was during when COVID first hit as well. But COVID did definitely help that. But at the time, no one knew that. But I was working. So I was in-person PT for 2 years. I was working basically 3 jobs as well. Also, I was working 2 other jobs and doing my PT. I was working a lot, and I think. So what I realized, well, I realize now anyway. Probably didn't realize that back then. What got you to where you are now isn't going to get you to where you want to get to. So what got me to making $100,000 a year is not going to get me to making $1 million a year. So I, as a person, need to change. My belief and my values need to change in order to become that person. Okay. And so when I was working in-person PT, I was just like, man, well, I can't obviously keep this. Like, this isn't going, like, I wanted freedom. I wanted to work from a laptop. I wanted to do all this kind of stuff. And being in person, I thought, this isn't going to do that. And I'm not going to be able to service as many people as I want. Because I'm limited by time. So I wanted to have the freedom from working online. I was like, okay, how do I do this? And one thing that I'm very grateful for with my mindset back then was I had pretty high confidence within myself, and I kind of had, because I never really gave up on things. And so my mentality was that if I just keep trying, keep pushing, then I'm going to succeed eventually. And I think that mentality has really got me here, and that kind of mentality is good, but I don't think that's not what's going to get me to making 7 figures. You know what I mean? Like, there's nothing. But anyway, it got me to here. And because, like, to make your first 6 figures, you can just work and get there really easily. But what gets you from 100,000 to 500,000, which I've learned, which I've achieved, is that you need to change your mindset. You can't just keep working. You need to learn the next skill, things like that. But anyway, what made the transition was I was just like, what's the worst that's going to happen? I'll just go pick up another job and start working again, or I just keep pushing. Maybe it takes me a little bit longer to get the online going. And you know, the time to get started is yesterday. You know, like you can't keep thinking about things, because that doesn't create anything. Thinking is good, obviously, to create the plan, but action, without action, nothing's going to happen. And so I just thought, I better do it now. Better late than never. Better do it now, and then I'll learn along the way and develop as I go. And that kind of thinking has obviously led me to this point. Obviously, I burnt out a lot. I was working a lot, and I was very passionate about what I was doing as well. So it was a rough track to get to where I am now, but I'm grateful I did take the step back then. But also, again, just as a side note, if you're a PT, it's very beneficial to do it in person first before going online. It seems that the online space is much easier, it's much more enjoyable, all this kind of stuff. But if you don't do it in person, you don't know how people move, you don't know a lot of things. I learned a lot about communication skills and stuff doing it in person, which I think you have to do. And this is where I think a lot of people go wrong, is like they don't think long term. So successful people are very good at having long time horizons, where unsuccessful people have very high expectations for short time horizons. So when it doesn't happen, they give up. Like who's going to be more successful? The person who says I'm going to create a 6-figure business in 5 years' time, to the person who says I want to create 6 figures in 6 months. You know what I mean? That like the person who's got the longer time horizon is going to enjoy the process a lot more. They're going to make better long-term decisions in the moment, and they're not going to feel as pressured and not burn out as much as well. So I think that like, having that long time horizon for what you want to achieve is imperative for great success, because then you're focused all your energy on that one long-term goal, rather than like pivoting and trying to find the quickest route to success, short-term success.
Yeah, very well said. And I hope anyway the fitness people, listening will really take something from that. I think actually a lot of my followers are from when, I was doing my bodybuilding and all my fitness stuff. So, me working in the gym as well, I think that's how we first met. We're in the same gyms, Bailey Fitness, shout out. And then, I think you mentioned one really important thing, which I think nowadays, like, because I'm focused more around men's mindset, that I know guys will struggle with, is that confidence, right? Like I actually had a call the other day with someone, and confidence was their one thing. And you said something very important, which I actually said to him as well. But like you mentioned that you had a lot of confidence in yourself because you had done things for a long time. Maybe delve into that mindset, because that's something maybe you've like just done over time, like it's a learned skill. But like if you were to deconstruct how your confidence to achieve tasks like is very important, like and how did you get to that? Like what are those steps? Because there's a few people that would just, like you said, they're just starting, they're like, oh, maybe I do want more in my life, and they're just at that like threshold of like exiting the matrix, is what I like to call it, when they want to move into doing, like they're starting to open up their mind to what the future could look like for them, but then they lack that confidence because they haven't actually set goals before, and they haven't moved towards achieving things. Like what would your input on that be?
So I'm not 100% sure like what would have caused my confidence. It could just be the fact that I've got in the same, like, people, I was just got in the same, sound like a cocky dickhead, but I've got the same work ethic, or especially when I was younger. I could just work. So I was very driven in the sense, like I wanted something, I just worked for it. And so for me, from my experience, whatever I set or wanted to get done, I achieved it. And so that obviously over time builds more confidence. But what I've found, which builds a lot of confidence in people, is they don't realize what they're achieving because they haven't set any goals, right? So they don't know if they've achieved anything, so they don't have that confidence. So they need to set the goals first, and acknowledge their small wins along the way. So if you're not very confident at the moment, the best thing you can be doing is just set some super small goals and acknowledge when you hit them, because then you're shifting that confirmation bias in your head that you can actually achieve what you set out to do. And so this is what I'm saying as well with our coaching, how it helps people reach their full potential. Someone comes to me that's tried to lose weight for 8 years and haven't been able to achieve it yet. A lot of people say they just want to be able to achieve what they said they're going to do. That's like a big reason for a lot of people get started with coaching. And once they achieve that, your self-esteem goes through the roof, your self-confidence goes through the roof, because you've proven to yourself, and every day you wake up, you look in the mirror, you've proven to yourself that you can do what you said you're going to do. And that stems across to all areas of your life. And so this is why it's so important if you say you're going to do something, to actually follow through and do that. It can be something small, like I'm going to go to the gym, I'm going to go for a walk, I'm going to not watch so much TikToks, I'm not going to play so much video games, I'm going to do this, and this. And then once you start doing it, you acknowledge your wins, and like that's going to increase the confidence in yourself, because you're actually doing what you said you're going to do. And so I think really high performers, people who are really high at success, is like they just do what they say they're going to do. You know what I mean? And they don't talk about it so much, they just get it done. And then it just builds more and more confidence that they can do it. So for example, with sales, when I first started, like I was selling online coaching for like $30 a week or something like that. And that was because I had no confidence that I could sell higher than that, or that I was valued for that, right? Then you're selling coaching for above $100 a week. And because I've proven to myself that I obviously get results, and also I can sell that, I have like complete confidence that in what I do, which enables me to sell more and more and more. So that, and then like, at the moment I might not be able to think I could sell a course for $5,000 or whatever. But as soon as I do that, I prove it to myself I can. And so then you just keep growing. And so the faster you can do that, the more confidence you'll build, the more you'll be able to, the greater success and the bigger leaps you can take, the more confidence you have within yourself. So that's kind of what I would say to that.
Unreal, man. That's that if someone was to listen to that, that's actually like actionable advice they can listen to. And you mentioned something so important as well along that process is the steps. You don't go from 0 to 100. That's how people fail as well, right? Like when I worked in the gym, at least, you know, people, they're like, oh, I want to get a six pack. Again, short-term horizon thinking. They think it's going to happen. They want something for nothing. They don't actually understand what it's going to take to do it.
Process.
And then they go in, oh, I'm gonna lose all this weight. And what they do, they have this so much motivation. They're like smash the gym. They go like 5 days a week. They're on like celery juice in the morning. And they're just like posting on Instagram, like in the gym, killing it. It's like 3 weeks past though. Like their body's not even used to going to the gym that much. Their immune system shot. I've seen literally like people get sick like in summer because they just come in and they like abuse their body and their mind for all these like new goals they're setting, and then they just crash land because they've got this massive spike and they're like, oh, I'm tired, and they haven't got a sustainable process to get there. So that's actually wicked what you said there. Awesome, man. That was cool.
There's a lot that I can actually talk about there. Another big thing is like identity. If you identify yourself as someone who's not successful, like for example, you identify as someone like I can't lose weight, then you're going to confirm the bias in your head that you can't. You're going to prove, you're going to self-sabotage. You're going to prove to yourself that you can't. And so setting small, so like, and that's an easy way of doing that is like they want so much so quick. I'm going to train 5 times a week. I'm going to stick to this meal plan straight away off the bat. And then when they don't do it, oh, I knew this is why I can't lose weight. I knew I couldn't. If they just started really small goals, like maybe like just going for a walk each week, or just maybe eating a little bit more protein, and it's measurable, and they start achieving it, then they're flipping that confirmation bias in the head that they can actually do it, and then that's what builds the confidence to take bigger and bigger steps. So 100%, identifying like or looking at who you want to identify as and upholding those beliefs and values. What I tell clients a lot as well, which this might help a lot of people out, is looking at so you in 5 years' time, the most successful version that you've achieved everything. What are their beliefs and values, and who do they identify as? And you write all them down, and then you start upholding those beliefs and values now, and that creates the decisions you make on a daily basis, and that creates the same outcome that you'll see in 5 years' time. So you start living that person now rather than the person that you are today. Because this is what I say to people: like, the person you are today is not the person that's going to achieve your goals, and people don't realize that. They just think that they don't need to change. It's not their fault. Okay. And if you can't take responsibility that it is your fault, everything's your fault. The more you can take responsibility that it is your fault, the more of a powerful person you'll be, because you acknowledge that if it is your fault, then you're in control of making the change. But if nothing's your fault, okay, it's not your fault that you're overweight. It's not your fault that you're not confident. It's not your fault that you can't do this. Then you've got no power, because that means if you lose the weight, you achieve that, you get that girl, you become confident, then you're acknowledging that it's not your fault that happened. And so you're powerless. And so that victim mentality is very toxic and what stops so many people, because they just get the mentality that nothing's their fault and they can't change anything. If you believe that, a lot of people don't know that's what they think. This is why awareness around it is huge. But if you think that, then of course you're not going to achieve anything, because you don't think that anything's your fault. So what's the point of you even doing anything? You know what I mean? So that's some yeah, I'm a bit passionate about that.
No, me too, man. You hit it like straight on the head, and it's funny you say the whole 5 year thing, because what I do with my clients as well, like I come from like a very balanced state, like yin and yang, like you can't have one without the other, and when you do, it's a fantasy, which is also, again, you can relate that to the depression analogy I said, where you've got this idea of what you want, but then it's not, there. And yeah, you're saying what the version that you want to be in 5 years will have a certain set of behaviors, values, and things like that. I say with my clients as well, which, if people are struggling to get moving in human design, right, you're either moving towards pleasure or moving away from pain. And it's like, this is one I use. Like personally, I use the pain a lot to like move me forward as like a propulsion, and I'll go, what am I doing like absolutely wrong right now? Like is what I'm doing, look at your 24 hours, are the habits and the things I'm executing, what will that be in 5 years? Because you'll just get very good at what you're doing every single day, like either way. And I usually, like with my clients anyway, I'll get them to look at their habits now. If they keep doing that over 5 years, like, I don't know, maybe like for me, I used to like, with drinking and smoking, right? I was like, okay, what am I going to be in 5 years if I keep drinking and smoking? I'm going to be an absolute unit at drinking and smoking, and my liver is not going to be very happy, right? So like that's how I've been doing it. But yeah, you're so right. Like I think having the both, there's like these are all tools, right, that you can use to move forward. Yeah, I love that, man. The mindset is
So
so
like
important.
for so what I tell people, and this is where a lot of people, I think I did a post about this, but exactly, moving towards pleasure and away from pain. Okay. And so a lot of people, like so motivation isn't a thing you want to rely on, because firstly, action comes before motivation. Once you start doing something, then you become more motivated after doing it, because you become better at it and you want to see more and more results. Okay. But so action is what matters most, and you've got to understand what's going to create that action. Okay. It's not motivation. But if you're moving away from pain, so what will happen is, say someone wants to stop overindulging or having sweets or things like that, okay? Or even tracking calories, making the effort to track calories. So they don't track their calories because it's painful for them to do that, okay? Or they eat that big load of ice cream because it's painful for them to think about missing out on it. Okay, so and the reason why they're doing that is because they don't understand the bigger pain of them doing that, what the action or not doing that action is going to cause. And so with my coaching, I make people realize what the pain of not achieving their goals actually feels like. And that overrules the pain of missing out on that ice cream or taking out a little bit of effort to track those calories. Okay. Because they're moving away from the bigger pain rather than they realize this pain it doesn't matter as much. Okay. But if people don't understand what their goals are, what the consequence of not achieving the goals actually feel like, that kind of pain, then there's no reason for them to make the change now. And so this is where setting the goals and looking long-term makes a huge difference, because the greatest determiner of success is how well you can make decisions that are going to impact your future self. And so what I say to people is, you always base decisions off what your future self wished you did. We can all sit around now and be like, man, I wish I did this last year. And so if you have that thinking, you can start applying and doing the things now to what you think your future self wished you did now, you're going to get to that point. Okay. And the better you do that, the more successful you'll be. And so being aware of the pain of not achieving your goals is a huge motivator to doing the things that you need to get done now, which is going to avoid that from happening. So you're moving away from the bigger pain rather than the pain of just like missing out on the ice cream or something. And then it doesn't feel like you're missing out on anything because your habits align with your goal, which is what you were talking about before about, depression and things like that. 100%. I've gone through a phase where I was just so unmotivated I didn't want to get up in the morning, had no purpose. I was just so like, I wasn't lazy, but I felt lazy. I felt crap. And that's because my identity, who I saw myself as, which highly productive, high performer, didn't align with my actions, which because I was just laying around all day because I had no purpose. I was just going through the flow. And so that caused a big confliction in my identity and who I saw myself as, which made me really sad and unmotivated and lack of energy and all that kind of stuff. And so once I realized that, like I said, I reassessed what my values and beliefs were, what my actions were, and I reassessed what I needed to change. And once I started getting back on that track and that bandwagon, then it enabled me to get back on feeling good again, because my identity realigned with my actions and wasn't conflicting.
Yeah, that's so important. That's like my first process with working with clients as well, is like number one, clarity of yourself and the vision that you're moving towards. Because yeah, like if you aim at nothing, then you hit everything. And if you hit everything and it's not what you want, you're gonna feel shit. And then you just got that whole vicious cycle. Yeah, that's cool. And so we've gone through now, like you're starting it up and you're getting to this new, phase of your life where you're like, far out, I'm actually making money online. Like, I'm genuinely impacting people's lives now. Now you're coming up with a whole new set of problems. And so there'll be certain listeners in this position as well. Now, what are some of these new problems that you're facing, and what are you doing to kind of overcome them with growth and things like that?
So one of the things that this was massive for me. This was a huge accelerator with my success. And it's something that I definitely didn't want to admit for a long time. So I never, because I'm very good at I wasn't good at taking criticism. I thought I was, but then I realized I wasn't, but then I got really good at it. And then that made me realize, or made me think that I didn't have an ego. Okay. But your brain, you are your work, like you, the person who can fool you the most is yourself. And so I got really good at convincing myself that I didn't have an ego. I read that Ryan Holiday book, Ego is the Enemy. I was like, oh yeah, this isn't me, blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean? I was like, I don't need to read this book because I don't have an ego. I finished the book and I was like, holy crap, I do have an ego. And so what I found, what was holding me back was I was too busy comparing myself to everyone else and thinking like, nah, like I know way more than these people. I should be way more successful. And one of my mentors, Kyle, who really changed my perception on that, really shut me up real quick. And I'm so glad he did. Was like, I was like, back when I was making 100 grand, I couldn't get my, I was like stuck. Okay. And that's because, so as this is a side note, as a business owner, your business will only be as successful as your self-development. Okay. So if you have to be the person who can manage or who could do this or who take responsibility, all these kind of self-development aspects and self-awareness, that's what's going to create a greater business. Okay. You can't be some guy who doesn't have good awareness and run a really successful business. If you are, it might just be an outlier, or you've got a really powerful team with you that's working. Okay. But if you're by yourself, it's you that determines your successful business. Okay. And so I said, like, I should be making more money, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, Dan, if you should be making more money, you would be. And I was like, damn.
Good. That's so
I was
good,
like, and I was like, okay. That's true. And then that was a really big ego hit for me. It made me realize I did actually have an ego, and I needed to obviously I wasn't doing the things that was going to enable that to happen. And so I reassessed, what aren't I doing? What are they doing that I aren't? And then that's enabled me to grow so quickly again, because of taking that kind of stuff on board and stopped letting my ego to determine like how good I should be doing or comparing myself to other people, because we're all on our own journey, right? And the more you compare yourself to others or where others are at, and then the less energy and attention you can focus on yourself and your own self-development as well. So yeah, that was a big turning point for me, realizing I had an ego. And just a side note, anyone who thinks they don't have an ego, you're the one with the biggest ego. Okay, everyone has an ego. I think do you agree with me with that? Like,
totally. We all have, there's 400 and something traits every single human possesses. We've got the same traits as Hitler, you could say, right? Bit controversial, but yeah, totally. But it's something you use. Like you got to accept these traits. Like what is it we were saying the other day as well? Alex Hormozy goes, the 3 traits of a hyper successful person is that they're narcissistic, that they think they're better than everyone, but then conversely, they also don't think they're good enough. And like these are traits that if you just pretend you don't have, pretend you're perfect, it's a fantasy, because like ultimately we know in psychology anyway, everyone has the same traits and you express that at each different points in life. Like narcissism is such a buzzword, right? Like, oh, you're a narcissist, but like narcissistic is when you're putting your values above someone else's. And then there's like a fiduciary as well, which is the opposite of that, which is when, you're kind of subordinating someone else. And there's always a balance. And it's like, sometimes you're that and sometimes you're not. I think that you're right. Like that's exactly what you just said. Then it's you like, this is what I do in mindset anyway. Like you've balanced what they call the perception. You had the perception, which was biased, that you actually didn't have an ego. And in balancing it, presented a whole new way of looking at things, which is like, this is what I call a roadblock in my line of work, which you would have just worked through and like you actually just exploded. Like, how fast did you see the results after you worked through that?
Oh man, that was exponential, and I felt way better. I enjoyed the process way more as well. So yeah, that was huge. That was huge for me, because I started working hard again, because I didn't feel like I needed to work hard. I was like, oh no, I don't need to do this. I don't need to do that. And then I realized, crap, yeah, like, because I thought I was better than I was, I guess you could say. And so I didn't need to do as much. I didn't need to do all this kind of stuff. I know this. But then knowledge is useless unless acted upon. And then I realized, I wasn't doing as much as I could have. And so, yeah, that was the biggest learning curve. And that's also stemmed to heaps of other things. Like, I thought I was a really good leader, because I've just been, natural born kind of like leadership traits. Like, you're confident in yourself. And so like at school, I would, take charge in groups, all that kind of stuff. So I thought I was a good leader. And then I yeah, I'm a horrible leader because that comes down to like communication and things like that. And these are all kind of skills you need. Like, as a business owner, as well, self-development, you level up, you learn sales, you learn leadership skills, you learn communication skills, you learn, and then like you can't just think you're automatically going to be good at something. What stops so many people from being successful is they think that like I said, the better they are, or like they don't want to take criticism for what they're not good at. They don't want to admit that they're bad at something. Okay. And so the better you can admit that you're not good at something, the faster you can at looking at improving.
Yeah.
Okay? So, and that's one that I think really helped me grow really fast. Is I just tell people like, let me know if I'm doing bad. What can I improve on? Because like positive feedback, like obviously, and this is what I learned as well. I thought everyone should just suck it up, but I realized everyone responds differently to feedback and communication and criticism. And so that's what I had to learn, because I was just telling my coach, which is also my missus, how I would want to take criticism, and she wasn't responding well to that. And I always thought it was her fault, but now I've realized that's my fault. So there's all the kind of learning curves that you need to go through. But yeah, and that was a massive turning point, because I just like, for me, my perspective was positive reinforcement is bullshit. It doesn't do anything. It doesn't help. The only thing that's going to help is to tell me what's bad, what needs to be fixed. And that's my kind of mindset, but not everyone does on that wavelength.
Yeah.
And so you become a powerful person, not how good you think you are. It's how good you can actually make an impact of what you can create and how well you can help others. So that was like a really step back for me. Or step forward for me in my mindset, because I stopped being so egotistical about thinking like, it's everyone else's fault, and started really taking responsibility for what was happening, and why things weren't going well, and what I needed to change in order to make that happen. And so I think that's probably my biggest learning. That's helping me to grow so quickly as well. Because I was looking at some really, guys that you see on TikTok making $1 million a year. I'm like, how the heck can he be doing that?
Yeah.
Obviously, he's doing something different to me, and he's doing something that I'm not. So what is he doing, and how can I adapt it? You know what I mean? So it's less comparing to more like looking as like a learning experience. And the more you turn into that as well, the more like you want to commend people for being successful rather than like hating. Because that's also like, that shows a victim mentality. If you think that people are successful because they got lucky or whatever, you're thinking like, oh, why do they deserve that and I can't? So
well, that's perception is projection, right? Like people say that because it's really just a reflection of them. They don't hate them because they're successful. They hate themselves because they're not. It's like once you realize that, you've absolutely won the game. But yeah, sorry, man, Kitty, I just pop in and say that, like,
no, for sure. That's basically all I was going to say on that. And like, like even like, and what's that? I can't remember that diagram where, like, when you first start something new, you don't know what you don't know, so you think you know everything, and you're really confident.
The competency curve, the bell curve.
The bell curve.
Crazy.
So I show that to a lot of people. So new PTs are like, every new PT, every new person in the fitness industry, they don't know what they don't know. And so their confidence is through the roof. And so they're posting so much information, everything like that, because I think they know everything. And this is what, and like I've been PT for 5 years. I've spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on courses, like so much, just trying to learn everything. And I'm at the point now where like, I don't feel that confident. Like I've got a social media manager guy like telling me to post more content, all this kind of stuff. But because I've got an understanding around, like, there's no real correct answer for things. It's so hard because like you see some guys like do these bicep exercises. I'm like, well, you could argue against that. So when I'm trying to create content as well, I'm like, oh, someone could argue against this. And so, because it is really complex when you think about it. That's what makes good coaches, as a side note, is they can simplify it, right? For the clients to understand. But anyway, like, that's what a lot of this fitness industry is prone for. And that's why everyone gets so overwhelmed and confused, because everyone's pushing all these things that they don't actually know what they're talking about. But going through that is necessary for growth. And so you'll go through a phase again where you think you know everything. Like, every couple of months I go through it. I think like, oh yes, cool, I've got a handle. I know what I need to do. And then I'll go through another massive learning curve. But that shows progress. And so I call it like the valley of despair. And the clients will go through this as well when they first start. Their motivation's at an all-time high. And as time goes on, they'll hit, I call it a speed bump. They'll hit a speed bump, and it's them overcoming that speed bump, which enables them to become the person who can see that result. Where a lot of people will hit that speed bump, give up, say it's not the right time, this isn't for me, and they'll start back at the start and try something new so their motivation's high again. And so through business and through life, self-development, anything, relationships, you're going to keep going through these and acknowledging that you will go through these challenges, and that it is a good thing. It's a growth. So like, as a business owner, if you're having setbacks, if like all these clients drop off and all this kind of stuff, then that's good, because that shows that you're growing or you can learn from it. Without that, then you're not growing, you're not doing better. Okay. And so acknowledging that this is a good thing. So, okay, all my clients are dropping off. People are like, oh, give up, this isn't working. Whereas if you have more of a productive mindset, you're like, okay, why isn't this working? What can I do to fix it so that in the future clients don't drop off as much? And how can I make a better product? Okay.
That's
And I'll
bang
give you
on.
another side.
Yeah.
I'll give you another side tangent as well with PTs. This was another big thing for me. It's like I wasn't getting referrals, and so I was like, okay, why aren't I getting referrals? What I needed, what strategy do I need to implement to get more referrals? And I think Alex and Mosey said this. And it's like business owners think they've got a good product when 99% of them have a terrible product. Like if you have a really good product, it'd be selling itself. You don't need you won't need to advertise. If you had a really phenomenal product, it would just sell itself. And so that's what I really took a hit for me. As I went back to the drawing board, redefine my product, create a better brand message and mission, and a better culture. And then people started talking about it. And then now the referrals coming in like left, right, and center. And that just shows because we've got a good product now. And so that was a big ego hit as well. And so, but this is all part of the journey and the process. Like PTs want to achieve, like they're like, what did you do to get here? Whatever. Or like, you know, physique. What did you do to achieve that chest? And it's like, okay, well, I've been training for 5 years. A good example of that is like my client. I've got a client, Amber. Her glutes growth has been phenomenal, and she's seen massive change in 2 years' time. And girls are like, what's like, you should be posting on TikTok, whatever, and girls will be commenting, what's your leg day routine? And then I was talking to Amber about it, and I was like, well, your leg days routine is training legs like nearly 4 times a week for the last 2 years and tracking every single one of your calories and sticking and not drinking any alcohol. But like, it's what people don't realize, that the work that takes to get there. And that's why, like I said before, long-term time horizons is what creates really high successful people, because they're looking long-term at what they can achieve.
No, you said that's literally really important, because it connects to as well with the comparison thing, right? You're talking about, like I do the same. Like any success-driven person that will be looking, that you use these people you see on social media as motivation. As like you said with the 50th law book, it does open your horizons to what is possible, and sometimes that's the first step. But it's when you're in that process of creating your own path that we start comparing. That's when it sucks, because what you see with, especially with these people that make fast money is not wealth. And that's something I've had to grasp, because I've got like mentors who are like genuinely like successful. They're not even on social media. Do you know what I mean? Like they've built their careers in the dark, in the bloody trenches, right? No one's there patting them on the back, giving them likes, comments. Like these guys, they've built businesses, they've become successful, they've invested, they've like networks, they've done it like the proper way. And I think, if for anyone listening that has an idea and success that's based on social media, it's 100% wrong. Like all of this stuff that you get seen, most of it, again, it's marketing. They're trying to get you in with emotion, right? So that you can buy their product without using logic. That comes down to the comparison as well. Like, just find out what you want to do, move towards that, and if you fail, like you said, you go over those speed bumps. That's what you should be comparing yourself with, is how well you can get over those speed bumps every time. Yeah. No.
On that, just quickly, social media is terrible for that. And that's what I think I found. Like and this is a side note, if you're constantly scrolling TikTok and Instagram, your brain's going to be so overstimulated. The tasks that you need to be doing are not going to be stimulating enough to get done. And so if you could just delete the apps and things like that, you're going to be way more successful. And the other thing is, like, every person you see on social media, like, they're showing how, like, getting up early is I'm going to the gym, I'm doing all this kind of stuff. I think that's the biggest load of bullshit, because the people who are genuinely successful in life, the ones that don't have time to be uploading to Instagram to do that kind of stuff. You don't see Elon Musk posting on his story like what he's doing. He's just working. And I mean,
besides Twitter,
for this, besides Twitter, but that's the marketing strategy for him. Unless he's, you know what I mean. So it's a bit different. But people want to show, like, they're trying to show that, like, oh, they're doing, like, they're doing the process, they're doing the thing. It's like, well, look, if you're really focused on your goals and getting it done, then you wouldn't be so worried about showing what you're doing every day and just getting it done. And that's what I think. It's really hard, because you see all these people on Instagram, like, doing all this stuff, like, they're being so productive and everything. Like, their goal in life, or their goal at the moment, is just to look productive. Okay,
that's
so that, set the camera, set the camera up, put a time lapse of me writing some stuff in a notebook. Like, what? but then it makes you feel bad because you're like, oh man, I'm not doing as much as them. Okay. And so if you got rid of that and ignored what everyone else was doing, this is what's also interesting because like our parents didn't have that pressure. It's probably what leads to a lot of like feeling guilt and stuff with us because we're seeing how successful other people are or what they see as. And I know it's like everyone says like you shouldn't compare yourself to people on social media. It's only highlight reels and all this kind of stuff. But what someone's, I think it was on the book Winning, but what's his name, Tim Grover or something. He said that like if you're posting on like social media what you're doing, it's like you're not doing it for yourself, you're doing it for others, right? Because if you really were just waking up at 4 a.m. to work, then you wouldn't feel the need to post on social media. And so that's something that really changed my mindset around it. And what I've noticed myself is when I'm being most productive, being most successful, is I'm barely posting anything on social media.
Yeah. Totally.
Because I'm just too busy and not caring what other people think. I'm just doing what needs to be done.
Yeah.
So if you're feeling guilty on social media and seeing what other people are doing, then just know that like you don't know what their success is going to look like in 2 years' time. I would just unfollow them all and just focus on what you're doing, and that's going to create way more enjoyment and less guilt through the journey, which is imperative if you want to see long-term success.
Yeah, I think it's a bit of I agree with you. I totally agree with you, but I think it is a fine line for business owners. Myself being in the educational business and putting out personal development and things like that for a long time. Like obviously you need some type of exposure to gain. It's just the machine, right? It's the machine we live in for social media. You do have to play the game, not hate the player. And that was a big roadblock for me for ages because like I am like that. Like a lot of people, like I don't post it, but like I do get up at like every single morning at like 4:35, go to the gym. It's only recently I'm like, okay, like because I've had people tell me again, they've affirmed that it actually motivates them. And so you're right. Like I do it for other people, but me being a coach, like, if that's helping people, like that's good ultimately, right? Like people will say, oh, okay, like that is something like you can do if you like put in the work. But yeah, like I know you mean, there's definitely a fine line. There's those gurus that are, not really doing much. And not actually doing stuff, or like I think what it is intention. That's it, right? It's okay if they're posting it
behind doing
it. But it's like if they're actually doing that, like practicing what they preach. Because I think we were saying this actually, I think the other day, that it's fine, but what if they're like not doing that stuff? They're posting that they're doing this, people are feeling guilty, but then they go in and doing the complete opposite. That's when it's bad, I think. And like that's for me, it's taken me a long time to like, I truly believe I practice what I preach. And like every one of my close friends, they know I'm congruent as a person, and like everything I'm posting online is me, right? And I know you, and I know the same with what you're posting as well. You're a congruent person, and that authenticity does shine through. And that's why, like the long-term thing, you'll see these people doing it super quick, grabbing attention, they're going to fall off. And then like the true success, because it doesn't, Rome wasn't built in a day. It's going to take a while. And the true success people will come out, especially like we're all in our 20s, a lot of the people in my audience and probably yours as well. We're in this weird building phase. We're in the hero's journey right now. Like we're in the depths, right? And we compare ourselves to, someone's, oh, I just landed this job, 150K. And you're like, fuck, I'm still on Centrelink, like I'm still studying. Like, and then, but really what you'll see, the true success when we're in our 30s, like all those people talking, they're either walking as well, and you'll see them at the destination, or they're just talking, and that's it. You'll just hear them as an echo as you go further. Yeah.
100%. I totally agree. And it's like, that's what people don't understand. And that's what's hard. Hindsight's always a good thing. You look back, you've been like, wow, I'm so glad I stuck to this. So like back then I'm so glad, because like I had a choice to make. I had a couple times I nearly gave up on what I was doing. So I'm not gonna say it was easy for me. It definitely wasn't. But there's a couple of times where it was difficult. First one, I saw my mates going FIFO and earning some coin. And I was like, man, I could just go do that. And then that might be better money, blah, blah, blah. But I said, no, I'm going to stick to what I'm doing. I'm just going to commit. And so for ages, I couldn't do what all my other mates were doing and things like that. But I was committed because this is what I wanted to achieve long term. And then when crypto and all this kind of stuff came out as well, or like drop shipping. And I was like, because it takes ages for your business to take off, right? Like if you want a successful business, give yourself 5 years. 5 years of doing it. That's what you want to. That's the time horizon you kind of want to give yourself. But as dropshipping came out, I was like, oh man, do I just do this instead? And then like and then go into that. And I had to make the decision to go again. And one of my mentors that helped me heaps said, like, when he was my age, same thing. Stocks were coming through. His mate's telling me you should do this, this, and this. And he said to me, like, look, mate, excuse this language, but it was like, look, mate, if what you're doing doesn't get you hard in the morning, then there's no point in doing it. You got to enjoy it. You got to be passionate. You got to be passionate about what you're doing. And he's like, I couldn't give a stuff about stocks. I couldn't be bothered looking at charts and that kind of stuff. But what I am passionate about is business. And I'm the same there. I couldn't care about NFTs and all that kind of stuff. Of course, you've got to be aware of what's going on around you, all that kind of stuff. And I take, like, if change is occurring and things like that. But the whole principle, the goal that you're trying to achieve, you've got to stick to that. And that's what you're passionate about. Like, if your passion's fishing, like, that's the thing. I was clicked as well. I wanted, like, what should I do here? But that might be a goal later down the track. Okay, and it took me a while to accept that it's okay if I wanted to do that. Right? No one cares. Like, if you if people are telling you not to do something and you don't do it, in 2 years' time, when you're facing that regret, who are you going to blame for not doing it? It's them. And so that's why you've got to commit to whatever you want to do and just try and back yourself. There's something else I was going to say on that, which I think I just totally forgot. But yeah, I'm so glad I did stick with what I was doing, because otherwise I would not be where I am today. And if I let other people, this is why it's so important to have that goal in mind, like we've talked about, because otherwise it's so easy just to sway and go with the flow and all that kind of stuff. This is why, fast success, like you're saying, like the faster you make money, the faster you'll lose it, right? And that's
what goes up must come down.
Yeah, like all these drop shippers, like they just like create courses and then they make a quick buck, they sell that, but because they haven't created a proper company and of course, systems and business structures, all this kind of stuff. They haven't done that self-development. They aren't the person that can maintain that business, and it just crumbles. But they make it, it's like a flash in the pan, like so many PTs, because they aren't looking for the long-term game. Same thing with losing weight. People over-restrict themselves and they'll commit to 8-week challenges, all this kind of stuff. But if they can't maintain those habits and they don't go through that self-development to be the person that can maintain that result, they're never going to maintain that weight loss, and it's going to put the weight back on. Same thing with business. And so doing it the right way, that's why I coach with my PT. Doing it the right way may take a little bit longer in the short term, but it's what's going to create long-term success. And in my opinion, if you can't maintain the outcome, then you're just wasting your time. So what's the point of doing it if you're going to lose it in the end anyway?
100%.
So all these guys, all these like younger guys and girls that might feel pressured, they should be doing this, and this. Like they're all fads. They're all fads. You see them come and go, and so you just need to commit to what you're passionate about, what really excites you. And if you can commit to that and you just put all your effort into energy and attention into that one thing for long enough, eventually you're going to be successful. Like this is my thinking. Like I was tossing whether to go into day trading in stocks, and I could have been successful in that if I wanted to. Because my mentality is, if I keep doing it and learning from it, eventually one day I'll be good enough to be successful at it. Right. Same, but I wasn't I wasn't as passionate. I'd rather help people and coach them. This is what I'm passionate about. And so that's what I went into. Okay. And you'll get a point where money doesn't mean as much as you think it does. That's a really good key point as well, looking like long term to figure out what you want to achieve. Let's say you're making all the money in the world. What would you really want to be doing? Because that really determines what you should be doing. So it shouldn't be like, I don't know, some people are really driven by money, but that's pretty rare. But if you look at what would you do for free, that's a really good indicator of what you should be pushing, because you'll make enough money to survive, but you're going to still have to do something. Yeah. And I'm sure you believe this. Once you stop working, you start dying. Once you stop moving, pushing or doing your passion or working towards something, then you just kind of.
That's a universal law, man. Universal. If you're not growing, you're dying. We're a part. I use this analogy all the time. We're a puddle of water, and if it's stagnant, bacteria and all this decay happens.
That's a good one.
We are a free flowing thing. Like energy has to be transitioned smoothly and consistently, and if it stops, something has to degrade it, right? It's the same in our body. It's all across. That's kind of, I love going super deep into that stuff, like the metaphysics of reality. But it is connected, and I think again this stems from you, from doing all the readings that you can do, learning as much as you can, learning about how the world works, because it comes down to your empowerment, right? It's if you're not empowered in health, you'll be told what to put in your body. If you're not empowered in your beliefs, you'll be told what to think. if you're not empowered in finances, you'll be told how to spend your money. So the key, I think, for every single person is to become empowered. And the way you become empowered is by setting a goal and moving towards it and just pursuing to become a better version of yourself, taking control, not just drifting through life and reacting. And that's the first step, is becoming conscious of the fact that you are in control of everything. You said this before, right? Like, everything that happens to you, if you say it's not your fault, then it's not your fault and you can't grow from it, right? Like Grant Cardone says it, wherever you go, there you are. And it's so true. And it's a bit of a big, hard pill to swallow, because obviously some things can happen in people's lives, but ultimately it's comes down to, is it worth going over? Is that you got to grow into that person? And I think we're getting to the end now. Both got to head off, but I suppose we'll finish it off with, what those people out there that are, maybe even struggling with, finding that passion. They're completely lost and stuck. What is the first step that you can get someone, that first step that you tell someone to do just to get them moving and moving into, pursuing something great in their life and meaningful?
So I would recommend reading, I'll probably recommend reading this book. It's called, The Magic of Thinking Big. That's what he talks about, is also setting long-term goals. That was actually a big eye-opener for me as well. And I wish I read that way sooner, because I kind of like reading. I was like, oh man, I kind of had all these learnings naturally. Okay. And this is one thing that Alex Hormozi says, which is really powerful, is like, you learning either costs you time or money. Okay. And so you can either spend, and this is why I think it's not smart to try achieve your weight loss or fitness goals by looking at the cheap or doing it by yourself, because that's costing you time. You can spend that time achieving those goals by doing it right, by just spending the money and getting a proper coach, or you could just spend that time, like years of your life, trying to accomplish it and probably not even getting there. So it's better doing it right from the get-go. That's why mentors and things like that are very beneficial. But yeah, I would say to them, like, firstly, not worry about what everyone else is doing, because like you're on your own journey. It doesn't matter what everyone else is doing. The second thing is like looking at where you want to be in 10 years time, what your life looks like, how much financial freedom do you want? Like, you don't have to run a business. If you're happy working a job, like say, because there's pros and like you got to choose your hard. Okay. Like you can either, like it's hard running a business. There's a lot of stresses and stuff, but it's also hard not having freedom and having to work for someone else. So you got to choose what you want to do. But if you enjoy there's nothing wrong with that as well. There's nothing wrong with anything. You know what I mean? It's like there's no right or wrong. With like whatever you want to do with life, as long as you're happy, that's all that matters. And so if you want to just work a job and come home, like my dad, like this was a big wake up call for me, because I think, why would anyone want to work for someone else? My dad is just happy, going to work, coming home, and then being able to switch off and things like that. And that's what he's happy to do. And that was a big eye opener for me as well. So if you want to achieve that, there's nothing wrong with that at all. But it's just getting clear on where you want to get to and what's going to get you there. Okay?
Yeah, at least
you got to be realistic as well. Yeah, you got to be realistic as well. Like if you want to be a millionaire and you don't want to take on any high risk or do any like intensive job or run your own business, then that's really unlikely you're going to get there. But getting clear on what you want to achieve, then you okay, what do I need to do in order to achieve that? And you won't know now. Okay, but that's part of the process. Okay, you need to figure out where you're heading, and then over time, as long as you've got some sort of like a compass guiding you where you're heading, your subconscious brain will take over and you'll start making decisions that will put you in rooms or put you in places that's pushing you closer to that goal. But with no goal, you're just going through life with emotions week in, week out. And then you're going to get to like you're going to get 10 years later and be like, shit, I should have done this earlier.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome, man.
Because you only know what you know. You know what I mean? You only know what you know. And so the more learnings and the more experiences, different perceptions you can take on, the faster you'll be able to grow, because you can think differently.
That's huge, mate. Well done. That's I think we got so much in this 45 50 minutes. This is probably one of the best podcasts I've done so far. So yeah, I really want to thank you for coming on, man. There's no doubt going to be a lot of segments we can bring out of this and chop them up and put it out, and just for little tidbits for people, whether you're a business owner, a PT, or even just like a standard person looking to improve their life. This podcast is like mind-blowing. You're going to hit every single level I think we went, which is awesome. But yeah, so thanks so much for coming on, man. Really engaging conversation. Where can people find you, and best way to contact you?
Well, if you want to, I'm always open. Like, if you want to message for some help, I'm more than happy to help out. I'm very passionate about helping people. Because like I'm not very money hungry. Like I got what also killed my success for a bit was I got comfortable with my income and then it stopped me growing. But then I worked out my bigger purpose and what I was trying to achieve. But yeah, anyway, you can message me on Instagram, just like Dan Bulstrode, Bulstrode. Or you can find me on my business Instagram, which is Dynamis Protocol, Dynamis Protocol. Yeah, that's the best way.
Awesome, mate. I'll put them all in the links and on the socials and that, so they'll be able to find you there. But yeah, thanks so much for coming on, mate. And yeah, it was a pleasure speaking to you. I hope you have a good day.
My pleasure, mate. Thanks. I'll talk to you later, mate.